Let's go to work, 'cause I'm tripping. Gotta work on myself, 'cause I'm falling apart. Please wake me up, 'cause I'm slipping. Can't fight this feeling off no more. But I'm not going to give up and fall. Rise above it all, meet all my challenges and search for my strength. I defeat them all, I'm never ever gonna hide no more. I come to love myself again, yeah. For all the things I didn't know, the pain, the hurt, I let it go. Start to believe in myself and life will be sweet again, so sweet again. Above it all, beat all my challenges and search for my strength. I defeat them all, I never ever gonna hide no more. I come to love myself again, again. For all the things I didn't know, the pain, the hurt, I let it go, let it go. And I start to believe in myself, and life will be sweet again. Oh, na na, oh na 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 na. When all I see is darkness and gloom, yeah, I'll be running from my doom. Oh na 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 na. But now it's time to live my life, but now I know what I need to do. Oh na 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 na. When all I see is darkness and gloom, yeah, I'll be running from my doom. Oh na 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 na. But now it's time to live my life, but now I know what I need to do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. How's it going? Good morning, you beautiful people. I am not muted. Someone is in a OTR truck right now. You're traveling and you're either saying, yes, I can hear you better now, or no, it sounds exactly the same. I don't know which. I know that there's this 4K button. I don't know what it does. There now 4K is off and now 4K is on. And that's about it. If I go up even higher, though, it really does clip out. This is not acceptable to me because this clips out. And so I know that you may not be able to hear me unless I clip out, but I don't want to clip out. I need to be maybe there. But also, I can hear a lot of sound when I'm here, a background sound. See, so I go right there, and I feel like this is the right level for you. And I'm sorry to be doing these tests, but I really want people to be able to hear me. So yeah, there you go. Welcome to the show, everybody. Beautiful day to you too, Debbie. It is a beautiful day out here. I'm in the office right now. I tried to stream out on the porch today, but I couldn't get everything set up in time. There's all kinds of wires. There's all kinds of wires everywhere. There's just wires all over the place. Wires. Let me see if I can get this slide thing up. I wanted to talk about this today. This book right here is Jerry Marzinski's book. Sherry's Swiney helped him too. This is their book, I guess. I've spoken to Jerry about this book before. I've only spoken to Jerry. I've listened to a lot of Sherry talk too. I actually invited Sherry to talk about this too, but it was like a long time ago, and she was busy with this book. But if you want to read this book, you should. And there's other books. 30 Years Among the Dead is another one I think you should consider. And Swedenborn. There's a whole series of writings by this dude Swedenborn that talk about demons, demonology, and what they are and stuff. And I go into it a lot with the Eye of Ra. I go into it a lot there with the Eye of Ra. And let me just thanks, Tees. Just like scrolling up to see. Good. I go into it with the Eye of Ra, and I don't want you guys to. If you guys hear me speaking anything confidently about demons, it's because I have a strong opinion about what they are. I think they're real. I think they are a very tangible part of life. And there are the Aurora Borealis is a demon. The purple veil expunging itself above Mount Meru and stretching across the dome is the oldest Pythos. Pythos is the serpent that dies underground, and the putrid stank of that dying giant is raises up and invigorates the virgin who is perched above the hole of this cavern of this dying Pythos. I've just described to you the Oracle of Delphi, whichever you want to call it. I really like Delphi better. I just do. I like that sound better. But I keep calling it Delphi because the corporate overlords are like, hey man, we're going to cut off all the funding we've already cut off from you if you don't call it Delphi. Delphi. Yeah. Delphinicus. Delphinicus was the guy's name. And the Aurora Borealis, right? The Northern Lights is the I don't know which civilization, but it was a huge civilization. That blockchain, that keep in mind that the Oracle of Delphi, what am I going to call it today? The Oracle of Delphi, it knows all. You consult the Oracle the exact same way you consult Siri, for those of you who sadly are consulting Siri. You know what, not even sadly, embrace Siri, whatever. That Oracle, when it dies, the information has to go somewhere. Somewhere. In the story of Apollo, that somewhere is rising up out of the pit of the rocks. Beyonce Knowles, I'm not kidding. Beyond the Knoll, Beyonce Knoll, that's what that name means. Beyond the Knoll is the place where the goat got away. Not kidding. And the shepherd went to fetch the goat beyond the knoll, and the goat climbed up on top of the rocks and spread-eagled himself between the crevice at Delphi. The fumes from that fallen rock in Greece, from that valley, it's a massive valley of all these rocks cracking into each other, and the fumes from that raised up and invigorated a virgin that was perched, squeezing the branches of laurels high as a fucking kite up on this copper tripod, suspended high, and reproducing the information, tapping into that information. What do we know about energy? It's neither created or destroyed, it's simply changed. Same thing for information, because information is energy. Energy is information. It's the same thing. Which is why I want to go over a few notes with you about what an actual demon is. Like what it actually is. First of all, another book I would be amiss to not recommend would be Technology of Belief. I cover 18 different cases, maybe it's 19, a certain number of cases that deal directly with targeted individuals, psychosis, and demonology, like cross-platform. It looks at all of those. And there's a special chapter dedicated to Jerry's work. Jerry's work before he published his book. There's a lot of information in here. Jerry worked for years in the prison population as an occupational therapist. I bet that's the wrong title, but he was working closely with, no, he wasn't an occupational therapist. He was a psychologist. He's his master's in education. He was interviewing schizophrenic prisoners, inmates. It's his job. Hundreds of files on each of them. And this evaluation gave him a lot of insight into the technology of demons. One of the technologies that Jerry uncovers is the idea that more than one crystal meth addict shares the same hallucination. And I want you to know that in every definition that we have of what we call reality, especially this really crazy word objective reality, every definition we have of that satisfies what Jerry's patients are describing in the book that would make them real, that they would not be hallucinations. And that's having a shared co-experience. Two people can experience the same thing. But this is not just about Jerry. If you read 30 Years Among the Dead, you will see a lot of group psychosis, group hallucinations, which are not hallucinations. Everyone in the group is experiencing a similar entity, that they are getting readings from a similar way. Another great book for this is Wonders in the Sky. It documents unidentified flying objects for the last 7,000 years. All of these systems are giving you information, and if you write it down, and if you think about it like I have, you suddenly notice, wait a minute, there's a lot of things I know about demons. The revelations of them, the reports of them, actually give you bona fide clues, intrinsic clues as to what they are. And it really does all start with your equipment. I'd like to remind everybody, this is a really important part of this, is that source reality comes at you in a singular signal. It's a singular signal, and it's source. And all of us are reading the singular signal in real time at the same time. If any of you have played a multiplayer game, all of you are confined to the clock, the game clock. There's a central game clock. There's no way that you would be able to play without the central game clock because you would not be synced with the rest of the players. This is really a crucial part of that, the syncing of it. The syncing, S-Y-N-C, syncing, is actually why I know that source comes into you through this singular form of reality. Right? It enters the pineal, and from the pineal it is then transmuted, decompressed, separated into different kinds of sensation. Source itself, source reality, is not a sensation. Why? Because it's polyphonic. source is polyphonic. It has too much stuff in it to be sensational. It can only be sourceational. It is source. Source comes at you. Your beautiful equipment renders and pulls from the source all of the different fibers that it wants and needs to serve you a plate of reality. That plate has different parts to the meal. You digest the smells, the sights, the thoughts, the hearing, the sounds, I should say, the tastes, and the tactile sensations of that source reality. There is much reality in a singular dimension of sense. One can have a complete human experience with my voice. It does not require your sight to engage me, to understand who I am. That us having an audible conversation itself allows for a full dimension of interaction to occur between us simply because we're only using one of these channels. Knowing this, you therefore know that in order for something to be real, you do not have to perceive every single signal from it. We like to think that that's what makes it real. You and I have decided in a very primitive caveman Cro-Magnon way that what is real is that you smell exactly what I smell, you see exactly what I see, you taste exactly what I taste. And if you and I do the same thing, then we have what's called reality. Now, this is bullshit. I don't mind us using it, though, as a definition. It's okay. I think it's a lot like playing as a child. That when you enter into the playground, you are not concerned with whether or not the game is real. You are concerned with how much flow state am I going to find by participating in this game. And so you shop around for flow state. Do I want to play basketball? Do I want to play kickball? Do I want to play foursquares? Each of these games offer a different flow state for you, and each of those games will focus on and rely on different threads of source that you're going to dwell in while you play the game. The technology of demons works inside of very specific threads. Are demons alive? Is a river alive? I would argue that under our definition of what we call living, a river would not be alive. Yet you and I know in our heart that the river is alive. We know that. Come on, we know that. You know it. But it doesn't fit the scientific definition of what is alive. Yet that river is more alive than you or I. So how does this fit? And the reason why it fits is because that river perpetrates every one of your source streams unavoidably. And this is what I mean by we have a false sense of what we call real and what we call alive. And the river proves, just like demons do, that we are missing the entire picture. And that a river is larger than you and I combined. A river lives for eons. A river persists despite what humans are there to service it. You could certainly make an argument that does the river exist if no one there is there to sense it? Go for it. It's very David Hume of you, and I approve of Mr. Hume's perspective on this, which is that all that is real is that which can be experienced, which is at the very heart of Zeticism, which does in fact end up being a proof for a demon, while science will insist that it's an hallucination. And you notice that it's science themselves that have created this world where things are not real. And that those things are not real, not based on your experience, but based on a definition in a book. That the book comes out of itself, the hypothetical, is erupting itself into the world and declaring for living creatures what is real or not. That is a type of river. That is a type of demon. And that type of demon runs most of the corporate halls of medicine right now. That it's not the human administering the medicine, it's the demon. What is the demon? It is the hypothetical of consensus, right? Consensus. Consensus is majority rule, and the majority is a demonic, ectoplasmic, gurgitation. It's not a regurgitation. Gurgitation from your mouth. You spit plasma out of yourself. That plasma is, I will consult consensus. And the plasma that requires you to consult consensus would have to be the abandonment of your own authority, to go to the hypothetical and ask the hypothetical, oh great consensus, tell me what is real. And the consensus gives you an answer. And you know this answer because it is reflected in the demonic field of everyone else that you call a peer. And so you consult your peers, and by consulting your peers, what you're really doing is consulting whether they agree with your assessment of what consensus told you was real. That is a river. That is a very special kind of well, a very special kind of fountain, and it's directly created through the algorithm of everyone who's abandoned themselves to that place. I hope this isn't too hypothetical. A demon is a living entity as long as you can redefine what living entity means. If you can accept that the river is alive, you can accept that so are demons. What does the river do? The river follows the path of least resistance. The river has this Taoism to it, this principle that will either create a perpetual motion, a living perpetual motion machine that allows a demonic algorithm to run in a loop. Self-doubt is a river in your spirit, in your body. Self-rebuke is the same. Praise, all of these emotions, you'll notice, are demons fired off by a piece of your liver or your pancreas, or more importantly, most of the time your intestines. That your intestines are injecting the serotonin, these squiggly devices that are there to produce the flow, the bellows that brings the demon to life, much like pumping your heart with a fist. It creates the action, like blowing on a fire, knowing that if you blow it in just the right rhythm, the fire will pulse with it. And if enough of that rhythm is started, the fire will run itself, the same way a river does. Fire follows the burning of least resistance. Water follows the flow of least resistance. The demon follows the flow of least resistance. It is an electrical algorithm living in your field. I call this word vectored will because it's very much like an arrow that's been shot from a bow. and that you not understanding what an arrow is might see the arrow and think that the arrow is alive. Why? Because the arrow has true repercussions. It has a sensory wake that cannot be avoided when that arrow comes at you. You cannot avoid that arrow at all. It's with you always. And as it's careening through space and time, as it's splitting the very wake of nitrogen that exists in the atmosphere between that arrow and you are looking at a living creature, much like a river, much like a fire. That's an algorithm built into the ether where everyone agrees that this is real, that the force and intent of this is real. And it's been projected by the sender, the one who shoots the arrow. And that caster will either sin, i.e. miss the mark, or hit it straight on course, but it is not up to him, it is up to the projectile that's been sent from him. The arrow is not the person. If it was, you could yell at the person, you could stop the person, and the arrow would stop too. But the arrow does not stop. The arrow keeps going. This is the meaning of vectored will. This is the meaning of what a demon truly is. A couple of weeks ago, or last week or something, Jerry was on my good buddy Walt's program. Iron Realm Media and Josh and Walt, and they were discussing with Jerry his book and his work, and I could listen to him talk over and over about it. And in my book, I had to disagree with Jerry, and I think that this disagreement is important enough you could turn a whole show into it. Because Jerry will use the words in his book, and when he's talking to you, he will say to you that demons will lie. And that the demons that were infecting the person's head in the prison, the prisoners, the inmates there, they would constantly lie to the inmates, is what he would say. And I want you to, if you want to understand what demons are, you're not going to be able to use that kind of language. That language is caused from not actually looking at the anatomy of what these things are. I would like for all of you to consider what it takes to lie. That for you to hold a lie, for you to carry a lie, requires that you create multiple timelines existing at unison at the same time. And that for you to even be lying, right? Lying is a very specific thing. Lying is not telling the truth. Lying is knowing the truth and not telling it with intent. That's just the definition of lying. What the intent is, that doesn't matter. It's a sidebar. And so if you consider that in order to lie, you must know one thing and say another thing, I would like you to picture that is two separate timelines. And we are grossly underestimating how many fucking calories, how much biology, how much physiology it requires for you to even have one timeline. Even a single timeline itself requires a memory recall engine built into potassium and sodium in your cells. We have more advanced equipment between that recall engine, right? We don't just recall, we actually filter what we recall to fit into the current reality that we have. So we have a simulation engine, we have a recall engine, and we have a simulation engine. And then we have a id, ego, superego intention, however you want to call it. Your neurological agencies that have competed and have won the throne, and they get to call themselves you, or what you would say me. Those neurological agencies, what you call me, they have their own veto power. They have their own legislative branch. They can administer their own thoughts too into the timeline. In fact, To even have a timeline requires one of these agencies, because your prejudice is actually what builds the timeline that makes it. So being able to lie not only requires a timeline, holy shit, not only does it require a timeline, it requires that you simulate a completely separate timeline and keep it in your memory at all times while you are lying. This is why lying will always end up taking more calories from you, more plasma from you, than telling the truth. Telling the truth will take more heat from you. People around you will burn you for that. They will give you heat for that. So you get to pick your poison, right? Do you want more heat from the outside, or do you want more heat from the inside? Telling lies is internal heat. Telling truth is external heat. So no one's getting out of this oven. We are all here to cook. We are all here to stew, as it were. But let's stop giving demons so much power. When Jerry says that the demons lie to the inmates, what he means is that the algorithm inside the mind of the demon is feeding off the negative emotion extracted from the person when the demon calls it a name. The algorithm of the fire of the bellow of the river that started is creates a path of least resistance through the neurological terrain of the inmate's mind. And it knows if it can generate internal speech, it can extract energy from its host. It's not a conscious entity. A river does not actually have free will. And this should be profound to you, because for whatever reason, we have equated having a soul with having free will. But the river has a very big soul. The aurora borealis has a very large soul. And these things are algorithms that follow the path of least resistance. Their soul is much more in tune with the world, which means for us to say that free will is the definition of reality would be to say all those who are not in tune with their surroundings are the only ones that truly are alive. And you could have that definition. I don't need you to agree. I just want us to stop missing that the river is alive. And I want us to stop putting crowns on demons, explaining that they have more humanity than we do, and that they have the ability to lie, to think, to plot. And when you look at Swedenborg, even when you read Jerry's work, you'll know that the Lord's Prayer is a bona fide spell with universal effects across the country, not kidding, inside these institutions where reciting the Lord's Prayer builds a psychic moat that prevents these algorithms from entering. And that when it comes down to actually confronting the demons, you ask them questions and they will tell you the truth. We know that because Sherry and Jerry explain how to expunge these demons. And it always comes down to a conversation. And in that conversation, the demons are simply explaining exactly who and what they are, even when it's detrimental to their own health. The algorithm has tapped into the evacuated neurology of the patient, and the algorithm is able to simply follow its path of least resistance, much like a pinball machine, where if you were to strike that pinball just right and to hit it with the bumpers just right, it would go into a pinball wizard state, where now the ball has its own life inside the machine. And that all of us end up watching this thing, and none of us are controlling it, because it is doing what a river does, what the aurora borealis does. It's leaking its woo-wee. It's leaking its following of the path. When you can look at demons as an algorithm, you can program them very effectively. There were decades of my life where I never thought that it would be possible that you could ever live a life where you have no internal dialogue. There were decades of my life where I believed that anyone who claims that they had no internal dialogue was either lying or they were psychopathic. And the reason why you will have those kinds of beliefs is the exact same reason why any of us will agree, no, this is the lane I need to be in right now. This is just the safest lane. Don't tell me how to drive. And I'm not here telling you how to drive. I'm here telling you that the dialogue that you're having in your head is part of a very important venting system that your makeup will follow regardless. As you get taller in the world, more people will dump on you. You will slowly do this math and you will notice every time I come in strong, people lay more shit at my feet. They are giving you alms. They are seeing the height of you, and they've looked around and they say, who can give my shit the shade it needs right now more than anyone else here? Who can I dump this load on? And they will be least likely to seek revenge upon me. And they will pick the tallest one in the forest, and they will dump their problems at their feet. You and I, whether we want to admit this or not, we know this. We know that this is how humanity works. You and I make these neurological agreements with ourselves that don't even talk to our neocortex about it. They don't need to talk to it. And they simply notice strategies to save calories throughout the day. Believe it or not, one of the ways to save calories is to haunt yourself. Most of us would prefer that we haunt ourselves versus having someone else haunt us. We seem to feel more comfortable knowing that these demons are our own. And so we tend to grab those demons first off the shelf, but we still haven't told our neocortex that this is actually happening. These algorithms are not going to lie to you. These algorithms are going to tell you exactly the truth, which is, how can I extract calories from you, or how can I invigorate my master? Now, you are the King Solomon of your body. You have the ring of Solomon on your finger. And you cast all of these demons from the pit or to the pit at your whimsy. This is how much power you have. These demons will either be commanded by you or you will be haunted by them. And you will say the reason why you're haunted is because you're very religious. And that the most religious thing and the holiest thing we could be is to hate and despise and to declare ourselves at war with these demons. And when you do that, you are pouring a very important form of gasoline on top of this fire that has an algorithmic ability to keep burning and burning and burning forever. And we are tuned by our ancestors that chased our ancestors with pitchforks. We are tuned by our ancestors that chased our ancestors with tiny pieces of shrapnel, from arrows to daggers to swords to needles. And that this propensity creates a certain culture of demons inside of each of us, and that we have shared demons, and one of these shared demons is consensus. It is a black river, and we continue to drink from its waters, and the only way we can drink is to pour ourselves out on the street to make room for another cup of this consensus. this experience that you're having, your desire to betray your own self to give these demons more power. This is the principles of addiction, the principles of abandonment. And it all really does start with these demons. And you were King Solomon. And you can't keep lying to yourself about it. You can, but you're going to have to stop watching me because I'm going to make that expensive. You measure a person's body sway. You can actually record the wandering poles. Your own Mount Meru is your spine. And your aurora borealis is going to be this aura that leaks from your prior civilization. And what is the prior civilization but where you are right now in your spirit? That's your previous deluge. It is the Ark of the Covenant from that place. It is the living trauma that you have from yesterday. And there is a stoic nature to stillness, as anger, neutrality are much more stable poles. But this happy pole has this wandering whimsy to it. There's no safety in this body sway of happiness. It's haphazard, even dangerous. And that haphazard, dangerous part that comes out when you're happy is exactly how and what expunging demons looks like. Many of us notice how fleeting happiness is. We notice this all the time. And the reason why happiness is fleeting is because that general feeling of joy is simply the opposite polarity of that feeling of anger or dread or fear. And so happiness itself is the collection and freeing of algorithms that no longer serve you. That your neurological map is constantly in a state of either I am cleansing myself or I am dirtying myself. I am cleansing myself or I am dirtying myself. And we find this state. And that state of happiness would actually be a state of reconciliation. That you would constantly be reconciliating your system. And I can prove that because when you look at the hypothalamus, when you look at the movements of these systems, we know, all of us know this idea of freezing, fight, or flight. And that freezing is that same kind of petrification, that petrified stillness that creates the energy to build these more demons. You might think, but isn't stillness better? And I would ask you, I wish that I had this on the graph, I would ask you, what do you really think it means to sit in the lotus position? Do you really think that the lotus position, ladies and gentlemen, like in a deep meditative state, sorry, let me get this back on, but do you really think that in a deep, fully engaged, like the perfect yoga state, right? Do you really think that it would be completely still? Because I think it would be rhythmic. I think that probably your perfect yoga state would probably look more like a figure eight. That your body sway would not stop. It would simply develop a harmony, a string theory, so to speak. If you look at the sound of happiness in this graph, if you could plot that as a sound, you're going to have to imaginate. But if you could plot that as a sound, I think you would see the whimsy. There's a clarinet there, right? I'm happy, yeah, I'm happy. I'm down here, I'm up here, yeah. I'm happy, I'm down here, I'm up here, yeah. And that is closer to that feeling of alive. Because what does life mean? It's a breathing. And I think this is a trait that we give to demons, and they don't deserve it. They're only going to breathe inside of the perfect environment, the perfect host that has that bellows built in. That bellows could be two colliding quartz plates underneath the ground, smashing up against each other. And the raw gnosis that's stored in the mountain is just released. And the virgin on the tripod says, "This is the truth." Don't dismiss the oracle at Delphi. That virgin did that for 1,000 years. 1,000 years. That was the only government we had. It was the only government many people had. Not the only one we had, but it was the only government many people had. People would come to the oracle to see justice too. It wasn't just spiritual, although justice was spiritual back then. It's really profound. This is why you were obligated. This is why you were obligated to seek revenge. Someone in your tribe killed your brother. That the worst thing that you could do to the tribe is to not follow through with that avengement. Because that would be forever stored in your blood as what? As a demon. They understood how demons worked. You know why they understood? Because they weren't going around insisting that they weren't alive. And B, they weren't going around insisting that they had all the powers of humans. That they were devious, that they would say this but mean this and do that. No. The demon inside the psychopath's head, inside the inmate's head that Jerry's interviewing, it's not lying to him. That person is disassociated and created a vacuum where a voice, a neurological living agency inside of him, the neurons that are living inside of that person are not lying, that this sodium and potassium transmission that's happening between them, that those are neurons built on extracting energy from its host. And they know the truth, that you're not good enough, says the neuron. You're horrible, you're this, you're that, you're a sinner, you're evil, That is the truth, because you're looking at a mirror of what the patient really is right now. What they really feel. It's not a lie. It's exactly the truth. What about the Lord's Prayer, James? You expunge, you can exercise these things. And if you want to ask why the Lord's Prayer, I'm not here to tell you it's because the Lord's Prayer is intrinsically showing you that the Bible and everything inside it is the truth. I don't even think you need to go that far, because even that, what is the Holy Spirit? You're ready to freak out. What is the Holy Spirit? It's a demon. It's the same thing. Demon, daemon, root of the word, angel. And angel, root of that word, seraph. What is seraph? Snake. Snake. So we have this really, really lazy, prejudicial. If there was a word for racism among spirits, it would be that. Spiritism, right? Ghostist. It's very ghostist. It's very demonist. How deeply we've changed that definition. And by changing that definition and turning it into the evil side, that all the demons in the world are evil except for one, and it's the Holy Spirit. That we're creating this pit. And we're making it worse by stuffing our ancestors down inside of it. Those are our ancestors in that pit. They're not lying to you. Those are your ancestors. And if you're being haunted by one, it's because that demon doesn't want to go in the pit. Ask Sherry. She'll tell you about sending them to the light. She'll tell you about that. What is she doing? She's resolving the algorithm. How is she resolving the algorithm? By jacking into the person's system she's talking to. Sherry doesn't do it. The guy does it. The patient does it. This is embracing our demons. Right? AANA is getting married to your demons. You're marrying them. You're saying, this person, this demon is with me forever, will always be in sickness and in health, for better or for worse. I am marrying this demon alcoholism. And you get chips for your anniversaries. Once we understand the technology of what this is, things start making a lot more sense. A lot more sense. Yeah, embracing the shadow self, B. Spooning them. That's exactly right, Debbie. Spoon your demons, people. Spoon your demons. You gotta spoon them. Should be a song. You gotta spoon your demons. Spoon, spoon. Yeah. You gotta spoon your demons. All right. That's my little update on this. I definitely recommend that book. And I think even if you read Jerry's words, when you see him using the word lie, you actually know what he means. He's just trying to explain that the voice really hates the patient. And that if he really hates the patient, then Jerry wants to call that a lie because he wants the patient to hear that, well, that's a lie. In fact, one of the defenses that they offer towards the demons is to accuse them of lying. But what are you doing when you're accusing your neurons of lying? You're telling your neurons, your neurodemons, that they're not valid. And this is one of the reasons why it's so easy to negate, to clear the memory of these demons. Chickamauga is a word that means, I'm almost positive it means creek of blood. Almost positive that's what it means. Chickamauga was one of the most brutal battles of the Civil War. A lot of battles in the Civil War were not brutal because a lot of people just didn't want to fight. But Chickamauga was a special case because the way that the river wraps and twists itself through North Georgia, Lower Tennessee, Southeast Tennessee, creates a lot of pinning in where you've got the ridge, you've got Lookout Mountain itself running on the ridge itself, and then these creeks, these bloody creeks. Really famous ghost story of Green Eyes in Chickamauga. And the description of this Green Eyes figure exactly matches the description that some of Jerry's inmates leave in his book that meth heads see. And they'll have the shared experience of seeing the shadow figure. And the shadow figure, if it's manifested strongly enough in the patient, which means that the patient himself was able to give it more and more energy, that shadow figure ceased to simply be a shadow and started to become something stronger than that. And so instead of just seeing a shadow figure, they started seeing its eyes. And these shadows had two different things, red or green eyes, or no eyes. First, the shadow was just a shape, and then it would take on it would anamorphize into the shape of a person. And once it's anamorphized into that shape, then sometimes, if you're really in touch with it, you can see its eyes. These are different harmonics that are hit through your eye of Ra. You're seeing these systems come into tune. And even the demons themselves were heard first before they're seen. That you're hearing first is the first to pick up on the treble of this algorithm that's here. And that only if that demon had enough oomph, enough plasma behind it, would your eyes be able to render it in your field of vision. And that's why these things are it's funny because demons themselves create their own algorithm where they're allowed to grow stronger because of the way we define what reality is and because of the way we define what living creatures are and what's not a living creature. We've created a dark zone, a demilitarized dark zone for demons to lurk and move about the cabin freely because we're insisting they're not there. We're insisting they're not real. And this is what we lost with the animism. This is what the Aurora Borealis is telling you used to be here. That everyone used to understand these things much more profoundly a long time ago. That the river was alive. That the Milky Way is a river, and that thing's alive. Think about what we do now with the luminaries. We insist, well, no, it's a giant pile of dust. The moon is a giant pile of dust. Right? We're missing the demons that are right in front of us. Thank you, Graham Greenwood, for the tip. I appreciate that. I think I got another tip there on Rockfin. I appreciate you guys. Let me do a quick little look here. Oh, wow, there's a big dog. Thank you, Charlotta. Wow, thank you. Nice little... fantastic. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Appreciate it. I'm missing a Rockfin one because the window got closed when I was trying to... there it is. When I was trying to do something with my window. My window there. Anyway, guys, I appreciate you being here. Hope you guys enjoyed this little talk. Let me see. Is there anything... Charlotte is a boss. When food and water ruled the man. The OLS Star Trek series did an episode of the entity that created hostility within its host, and the intuitive answer was to entertain the opposite emotion and shift your consciousness by doing so. Well said, David Bentley. I know that episode. You're right. And what is embracing your demons? What does that really mean, right? It's the same thing. Oh, thank you, Steve. Steve's placed a link to Jerry Marzinski's website. So there you go, Tornado Souls. Well, thank you, Hugh. Yes, I reached 17.5K. Happy to say that. Glad to see it. Oh, glad you like this stream, Hugh. Your ability to put this into words, to express these intuitions is... thanks, Graham. Appreciate it. I've put a lot of thought into demons because it's... I've always seen it as one of the final frontiers of therapy. If we could embrace the animism of demonology... fucking A, man, therapy would be a whole new thing. And sometimes we accidentally embrace it, so it still works out. But yeah, I think that's why this conversation feels spot on, is because this technique is exactly what all intuitive healing comes from, all placebo healing comes from, this technique. This is what the placebo effect is. It's saying there are algorithmic entities inside of me that I can interact with, that you can be the fucking Neo and stop the bullets midair and say, hold right there. You will not pass, right? And that's what you're doing when you're stopping those vectored wills. You are declaring you are not going to be allowed to run here. I am captain of this ship. And it's powerful magic. So powerful that many of us are like, fuck, I don't want that. I kind of liked being haunted. It keeps my head down. That's why there's people that don't have necks now. They've been doing that for so many centuries, epigenetically, right? That they just stopped it altogether. All right, guys, let's close it out. Have a good one. And this stream has definitely explained some current stuff for me. Good. Happy to be here. I love doing this. I can't wait to show you guys this episode on oh man, I can't wait to. I really, it's so cool. So hopefully I'll get that thorn out of your side, people. Guys, thorn. You and I have a negative connotation towards the word thorn, which is okay. It's prickly, it hurts, it's shit like that. In Paleo Hebrew, the reason why the Ark of the Covenant was made out of acacia wood is because the acacia tree had thorns. Do you understand that when you're living a Bedouin style, when you're living out of a tent, that you living amongst thorns is actually what we call king Baal, Molech, anyone in power in the Bedouin culture lived among the thorns because the thorns gave you protection. Thorns were seen as divine protection, which is why the word thorn and horn are the same, and why crown is the same too. The crown of horns, the way you look at a crown right now, actually goes all the way back to crown of thorns. Before we put Jesus in a crown of thorns was a real living thing that was seen as a source of protection. You were protected behind the thorns from the beast that wandered in the darkness. Just fascinating stuff, man. Just fascinating stuff. I can't wait to talk to you more about it. Have a great day, everyone. Remember the Alamo. Kiss your demon. French kiss your demons. Give a little looky-loo. And we'll see you next time. I have a bonus song for you. It's not by me. It's by the Tribe. But holy cow, this thing's good. And make sure you can hear it. Here we go.
Baphomet is singing a love song on the minor keys of Solomon. Towers fall when people rise. Sometimes truth is in disguise. This elevator has 33 floors. If you count the moon base, it's 34. Your arms and legs will be alright. And 3, 2, 1, let's ride the tiger. Those butterflies in your intestines honor the fruit that freed your mind. Mother of invention made progress look like retrograde. These chemtrails come in 19 flavors, 16 harmful, 3 lifesavers. Taste the rainbow when you look up. Aquarius will share his cup. And turn your toroidal field. All your colors will be revealed. In between your eyes, a crystal switch aboard. The ship is leaving. See you on the other side. Countdown to the world eclipse. Wave your flags in all your pride and have a nice apocalypse. Anubis is building a palace, 3D printed for Osiris. Dreamtime is beginning now. A light in Egypt shows you how. This goddess has a mighty wingspan to gather what she needs from the land. Resurrection is a chorus. Come on everybody, let's raise the Horus. And turn your constellation, spinning gears of all creation. Reach into your heart to feel the pulse of electricity. The currency of truth is so dilating that your circuit trips. Now your light is radiating. Have a nice apocalypse.